How about them Cowboys?
You just showed up flat. You just got outplayed offensively, defensively. It's a disappointing effort, I think, when you think about the Cowboys. And you said it earlier, Eves, about Elliott, man. I mean, how you give that guy 13 touches with a quarterback who's banged up, you're going to let him throw it 40-something times? I don't know, man. I just from the perspective of an offensive lineman, I would not have been happy. I can tell you that. I know going in, we are going to ground and pound it. We're going to keep the hottest player in our division being Carson Wentz on the bench as often as we can. And it's 17-9. This is not like this was a track meet that you had to compete in. This was a game that you fully had ability to win it had you just stuck to what you would do well, and they didn't perform.
Tim, it seems like what Jeff is saying right now is what Cowboy fans and the media have been saying so many times after their games. What were they doing? What were they thinking? What was the scheme? What was the strategy based on what was at stake here?
Where was the fire? Where was the sense of urgency of what was at stake? I mean, I, like Jeff, thought, and I think I was sitting here last week being like, look, when they play their best, they're almost as good as anybody.
Absolutely.
They have talented players.
Yes.
Look, the Zeke thing is 100% correct. Now, is that because they just weren't calling enough runs for him, or he wanted out? You alluded to that, and I don't know if he was banged up in the game, and that was part of the reason that he wasn't out there. But yeah, that's not the identity of that team. That team was in kind of a spread shotgun look for much of that game. That's just not who they are. I don't think. That's not when they're at their best. Last Sunday, we were sitting here talking about how they had two backs go for over 100 yards.
Right.
And how impressive was that? And it was like, okay, we know who they are and who they can be. Well, they didn't even try to be that tonight.
Right.
This is the first time since the Cowboys have had Ezekiel Elliott in a game that Elliott has played in, with all the suspensions that he's had, that the Eagles have finally vanquished the Cowboys. So when Zeke was in there playing against the Eagles, check mark, automatic Dallas before today. I just want to switch the paradigm a little bit because there's been so much joking this week about somebody having to win this division with such an ugly record. What did Philly show you today, if anything, that could say, you know what? Maybe they could be in line for a deep postseason run that maybe a week ago today people would have said, come on, no way.
No quit. I mean, listen, if you look at this football team, I wrote them off. I'm assuming most people wrote them off. They will not. I mean, they're not going to quit. They're not going to quit as a football team. They're going to trust each other. Carson Wentz, who hasn't had his best year, all of a sudden is hot. And about players who hadn't caught a pass at the beginning of the season, all of a sudden these guys are getting open. And whether it's Doug Peterson and the play calls, or if it's Carson Wentz, or if it's Sanders running the rock, whatever it is, it seems like it's working. And they're finding that kind of flow that they found even when Foles was playing, back in the playoffs. And this is, let's not forget, this is Carson Wentz really first time in this type of environment when it's all on the line. We've seen him get kind of banged up and somebody else had to come in. He played lights out again. We showed it when it mattered most. He's got no back down in him. I mean, whether he's got to pull it down and go run it for 8 yards and get him in a 3rd and 2 instead of a 3rd and long, he's doing it all. And you can tell that team is buying in to the mission at hand. I was shocked at the game, but I'm impressed as well from the Eagles, the way they played. When you find a team that believes like they believe. Now the question is, do they only believe because they were beating the Cowboys, right? Yeah. Can you continue this thing? You got some really good teams in the NFC. Do you believe you can match up with these guys? Man, I mean, tonight was an inspired effort, in my opinion.
What do you think, Tim?
Yeah, I mean, do I believe in them against some of them?
Right.
No.
Probably don't. Now, I think there are obviously some things that have happened there in the past between, their head coach and some members of that team that probably feel like they have that belief and that hope that they can get on a run. But, when I look at, when you look at their receivers, you look at some of the mistakes up front, you look at, guys in and out of the lineup in the secondary at times. I mean, Yeah, I think that'll be tough when you're playing the Saints.
Right.
I think that's going to be tough when you're playing the 49ers.
49ers. I agree.
That's how I would see it.
But for them, based on what's happened to them this season,
Here's the
even in
deal.
this position,
We're joking around. We're joking around. Hey, someone has to win the division.
Yeah.
Winning your division is a very big deal.
That's always the goal.
It's the number one goal in 32 locker rooms at the start of the season.
right.
So that's the reality of it.
Even if you win it at 8-8, you still win the division.
Still win.
All right? Fair enough.
You know what they call the guy that graduated in the bottom of his class from medical school?
A graduate, a doctor.
That's what they call him.
Boy, Mike.
That's what they call him.
Dad jokes out here. All right, we saw Jerry Jones heading out from his luxury box there. He was going to talk to the media. He's doing it right now here on Sports Center.
Extremely disappointing, to say the least. Philadelphia obviously gets the leg up now. We are very disappointed when you get yourself technically in a spot to kind of come into Philadelphia. Team that's got the players they've got, even though they have missing a lot of them. When you get in this spot, you give yourself a chance to be real disappointed. We are. The fact that we didn't get any scores, the fact the game turned out the way it did, we played well. Not a lot to say about anything else other than it's very disappointing. We all expected to leave here as the NFC East champs. We're not. We just go to Washington, but this is we let them really get into the things they played well. Wentz played well, as you all can assess for yourself. But that's about it. I don't have a lot to say about anything else, just other than we're exceptionally disappointed. I thought we could come up here, and we did. We'd had good weeks practice. We thought we could come up here and play a better game than we played. And I thought right up until the very end of the thing that we could come in and make some plays and get it done. So it is a very meaningful game because of the circumstances within the league. And we've had times this year a lot when we didn't play as well as we wanted to play, but we had in mind stepping back up here and getting on a run and having some good things happen. This is a disappointing setback for that locker room and for all of us, and I know it is for the fans. That's it.
Okay, sometimes what is not said really tells a story. Now, we've been watching Jerry Jones talk after games for decades now, really, and he's always forthcoming, wins or losses. He did not want to be out there very long, and it felt like he didn't want to say something after this game. 2 total minutes he spent talking to the media, when it's usually almost 12 or 15. He wanted to get away before he said something bad. That's my takeaway from that. He is as upset about this particular loss than he has been all season long based on what we just saw.
I don't disagree with you at all about that. And the crazy thing about this is Cowboys still aren't out of it.
No,
That's right.
Like, that's the crazy thing about it. And look, I actually think the Cowboys are good enough, and if they will run the football, which they're very capable of doing,
right?
Even going on the road and winning a game.
Right.
So, look, I still think if they get in, they could be a dangerous team. I still think that way about them, even though we've seen them put together efforts like against the Jets earlier this year or against the Eagles tonight, where you're like, man, there is no life in this team.
No consistency.
But yeah, so I don't think Jerry can say something because they may end up winning the division still.
Well, that's true. That's right, because they're not out of it completely yet. Yeah.
That's a gut punch, man.
All right, Jason Garrett, head coach, been in battle this season. Let's hear what he says after this loss.
Jason, what was the call on 4th down, the design on